Hi everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, today with another Healing Matters podcast and my YouTube channel, Jason Eagle QRA, and my Facebook, Strategic Healing, Instagram, Strategic Healing, all of that stuff. Patreon as well as Jason Eagle QRA. So today we're going to talk about your adrenals, adrenal concerns. I see a lot of this. I'm dealing with this. A lot of people, when you're having, there's a lot of conditions that really are the adrenals that then turn into other things later when it's untreated. Now, let me say this. Anything that I talk about in terms of this is good for this, this is good for this, I'm talking about nutritional supplements and behaviors and things like that, because the real thing that is any condition of your health condition, meaning it's turned into a problem, it's turned into this, all came from a deficiency. It's nutritional deficiencies. Every problem that we can talk about, even things that you would say are genetic. Let's say, well, I was just born with that. Well, no, you were born with something that you were not eating right for. Even some real serious stuff is, yes, let's say people have handicaps and things like that. Okay, you're going to have to live with that. But that came from a nutritional deficiency or an infection or something else in the mother or in the past. But it still is something that you have to deal with, which is you have to eat right. You have to get nutrition. So the adrenals are these organs that they sit right on top of the kidneys. So the kidneys look like kidney beans, and they are inside your back, inside your guts. And then right on top of them look like these little peanuts, which are the adrenal glands. Why? Because your blood flow, your blood goes through your kidneys, because your kidneys are a filter. It's the same thing as your car. Your fuel goes through a fuel filter, and your oil goes through an oil filter, because this liquid has waste products in it, and in particular has crystals and things that develop, crystals of calcium, uric acid. That's where we get urine from, and if things start to slow down, you're going to have kidney stones. These are other types of things. So these filters. Now, the adrenals, adrenaline is a hormone, and adrenaline is a hormone that's, we are familiar with adrenaline when we get scared, or when you get upset, or you get afraid, or let's say a loud noise goes off and you have, like, say, this fight or flight mechanism, or you know, those different types of things, because what it's doing is, it's, like I said, in extreme conditions, it's to get you out of a dangerous place. Like a cat, when a loud noise goes off, they arch their back and they make themselves look big, or they just take off. So adrenaline is something, and why? Because it's a hormone, which is very similar to, like, say, cocaine or methamphetamine or something like that. It's boom, gets you going. It gets the blood pumping, opens up the blood vessels so that you get more blood flow. But at the same time, it constricts things. So when people can have, let's say, a real serious adrenal dysfunction or adrenal, like we say, when a person's in shock, that's adrenaline. That's an adrenaline thing. And what it can do is you'll feel the blood rush to your core, to your internal organs, but pull away from your hands and feet. So one of the top things that people feel with an adrenaline thing is they get the cold hands, the sweaty hands, the cold hands and feet. People that say, my feet are cold all the time, my hands are cold all the time. Well, that's a normal adrenaline reaction, because when you have a fight or flight response, the body wants to send all of its energy to the brain and to the heart and to the internal organs and things like that, because that's the things that can keep you alive. You know, like Monty Python, you can live without your arms and legs, right? So it's putting resources, shunting energy to where that's the most important thing. Now, that's a normal process, and that's supposed to happen. But these things can happen to people when they're just sitting around and nothing's happening. So there's a lot of stress that gets related to this. And then there's a lot of people that, for instance, when we've had adrenal deficiency, adrenal burnout, and things like that, they then go to their doctor or something like that, and they treat it with, let's say, anti-anxiety medications. So let's say Xanax or Prozac or something like that, when it really is started with the adrenals. And by the time you get into those real serious drugs, is you're treating something that is, you know, you're way behind the 8 ball. And again, when we're dealing with stress, stressful environments around us all the time. And yes, if you're in extreme stress, and if you're in a stressful environment, meaning you're in a bad home situation or something like that, bad working situation, you got to get out, right? Because it's really hard for people to, or get counseling or something like that, deal with it. But for a lot of people, there's a lot of stress that goes on from their past life, or let's say when they were younger or something like that, and now they're fine, right? They're fine, like they're not poor anymore, they're not being beat anymore, but yet since it's not been dealt with, it lives in the back of your mind, and it lives in your emotions, and it's eating away at you. And now, that being said, is no matter what situation you are in, and sometimes it requires changing the situation, but also it's treating the situation, which is it's causing your body to eat up its reserves, basically run the engine while you're sitting there at the gas light, at the stoplight, running the engine, and it's basically using up energy and resources. And now that would be fine if you were replacing it. So if a person, let's say, has some adrenal or some stressful things going on in their body, and I'll talk a little bit too, one of the most common things that is stress is actually infection. Chronic infection that can be inside the body, that is, the body is always fighting something. Because see, the adrenals are basically the kind of like the horse, when the guy is racing the horse, it's the whip. Whoosh, 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 gets it going faster. Sometimes that's necessary. But if you're whipping that horse when, you don't whip the horse all the time. Guys do it at a certain time, but if you keep whipping that horse over and over and over again, eventually that horse is going to putz out on you and it's going to die, and you're not even going to make it to the finish line. So it's not good to be whipping the horse all the time. It's not good to be having the body flooding the system with adrenaline. Now, like I said, adrenaline is a hormone, just like insulin is a hormone. And so one of the things that turns into, if you can look at any real condition in the body that would be a disease condition, or basically all of the bad stuff, it's related to inflammation, and inflammation is related to insulin resistance. But insulin resistance often, and insulin is a hormone, meaning helps us to get rid of the sugar, the excess sugar that's in the blood that's not being eaten up. But a lot of times it starts with the adrenal glands. Which comes first, chicken or the egg? The adrenal glands constantly pushing the emergency button, okay? Now, like I said, there's different conditions that can kind of cause that. But even those conditions, let's say a person does have some chronic infection. Let's say a person does have not sleeping enough, not getting those 5 hours of sleep without getting up. So a person who has to get up and pee often, they're not refilling their adrenal glands, and so you're basically running the car on fumes. But like I said, there's a number of other different deficiencies in terms of, in particular, if you're not getting enough minerals. One of the number one minerals would be magnesium. Why magnesium? Okay, deficient in minerals. Magnesium is one of the top ones because magnesium is a muscle relaxant. Okay, as I've said many times before, I'm talking to you, my jaw is moving, all of these different things are all muscles. My brain is thinking, everything, you're listening to me. These are all muscles. Everything essentially is a muscle, which pumps the blood, which moves the, all of these different things. So everything is a muscle. And every muscle is a combination of contract and relax. So for every muscle that contracts, let's say we'll look at the bicep. That's a perfect example. The bicep, which is this Popeye one that makes your arm bicep, which basically it's called bi because it has two heads, like bicycles do. But what it does is it makes your arm go this way. Now on the opposite end of the arm, on the back of your arm, the elbow side, that's called the tricep. They call it tricep because it has three heads, right? Now they are the two sides, they are the teeter-totter of the arm, up the, from the elbow up. And when a bicep contracts, it shortens, and that makes your arm go in. Basically, it makes you flex your elbow, okay? Now, on the other side is the tricep, and that's the other side of it, and that has to relax. So for every muscle that contracts, there's another muscle that relaxes. For every teeter-totter, the girl that's up, the boy is down, right? For everyone up, there's a down, okay? The contracting of a muscle is calcium. Calcium ion goes in, and it essentially is little magnets, and it makes the magnetic thing, and they go click, 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 these little teeth, little ratchets, and that's what's called the myofibrils, and that's what shortens the rope. Essentially, every muscle's a rope, okay? But on the other side, the muscles have to relax. So let's say the tricep. What makes a muscle relax? Magnesium. And so for every contraction of a muscle, there's also a relaxation of the muscle. So for every calcium ion, there has to be a magnesium. Now, calcium is very abundant. Calcium is everywhere. Magnesium is hard to get. Magnesium, and so we run out of magnesium. So what happens is you'll have people that don't get enough magnesium, don't digest enough magnesium, don't absorb enough magnesium, and when you get into magnesium deficiency, now the muscles are stuck in a contractile state. So it's like clenching your jaw, you're stuck. You'll feel people with their back muscles. A lot of times when people have kidney problems, feel those back muscles right in the low back. They're like, you've got a bone in the middle, but then the muscles on either side feel like bone too. They're hard, they're stuck. And one of the reasons why they're stuck is because there's not enough magnesium to go around to make it relax. And when the muscles are contracted and stuck all the time, they are requesting adrenaline. They're basically telling, if I'm going to be stuck like this, you got to keep me going. Basically, you got to keep pumping in the coke for me to keep doing this, right? If I'm going to be driving cross country 5 days in a row without sleeping, I better have something to keep me up. That's what adrenaline is. So adrenaline does this. Now, but adrenaline is subtle too. Those are the big things. Adrenaline is used in every single process. So let me give you a good example of things that you wouldn't think adrenaline is used for. And one of the signs that you have adrenaline deficiency or adrenaline fatigue or adrenaline, it's different levels, adrenaline fatigue, exhaustion, there's good, bad, and the ugly, right? And one of the signs of really bad adrenals is not just the cold hands or the sweaty palms. It is dizziness by getting up from a standing up position or squatting. So let's say you're squatting down or you bend over to pick something up and you stand up and you go, whoa, or a person gets out of bed and they have to stand there for a little while because they're dizzy. That's the adrenaline. Because why? Okay. So let's go from like that squatting position or laying down. Okay. When you're laying down or you're squatting or something like that or sitting, there's your blood flow's working and your brain has to have blood flow. Okay. Now your brain is very up on the very, very top, and it's uphill from your heart. So the blood has to be pumped uphill. Okay. And when you go from laying down when you're level, where it's easy where it's actually downhill to uphill, the blood has to be pumped up there. Well, if your heart is only pumping bump, 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 okay, or even if it's going bump, 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 okay, there's not enough time to get the blood to pump it up into the brain if it drains out of the brain because of gravity. So what happens is your system knows this. The inner ear senses this stuff. Your inner ear is the other signal that sends to the adrenaline. So if you're going from that laying down to sitting up position, what happens is the inner ear senses that, and it sends a signal to your adrenal glands to pump some adrenaline, and then what it does is it causes, actually there's a tightness inside your neck. There's muscles that are inside your neck that what they do is they tighten up and they actually hold blood in your head because it's holding, there's enough oxygen in your, and there's not enough time to pump the blood up there. So if you suddenly stand up, you don't have enough heartbeats in order to get the blood up there. So there's this mechanism of where it tightens the blood, or tightens the muscles, tighten to hold a little bit of blood in there. So basically your brain holds its breath in order to keep some oxygen in there. Now, if we don't have enough adrenaline, those muscles don't work. That little subtle thing works, and the blood drains out of your head. That's why you got to stand there for a little bit in order for your heart to catch up to pump fresh blood in there. And so that's one of the signs of a adrenaline dysfunction, is that you get the dizziness. Why? Because it's a subtle thing. You're not scared. It's not one of these extreme things. It's a subtle thing. Adrenaline is used in every single process of the body, every single thing. So, like I said, and it's subtle. So, as I said, it's a deficiency. That organ has not been fed. The number one thing that adrenals need is they need salt. And that's the other thing that adrenals do. One of the signs and symptoms of adrenal deficiency is people peeing all the time. Also, another sign of adrenal deficiency is people holding on to excess water weight. So let's say, the swollen feet or the swollen legs, or I'm holding lots of water, or lots of water around the belly. Like you'll get people that have, look like they're fat, right? And then they go on a diet or something like that, and they lose a ton of weight immediately. That's all water. And the adrenals are the things that holds water in your tissues. So with not enough adrenaline, meaning if your adrenals have been not fed well enough and now they're starving, then they're not having enough adrenaline, you will hold on to too much water, or you'll become dehydrated. Or you'll drink lots of water, but it goes right through you and you have to pee all the time, okay? So, and this is where it gets into salt, okay? Many people have been duped into, salt's bad, sodium's bad. There's a huge difference between salts. Sea salt, good. Table salt, bad. Sodium that is in canned foods and packaged food, that's bad. Preserved meat, that's bad, right? So, but without enough sea salt, without enough salt in the body, without enough sodium in the body, you become dehydrated. And then nothing works the way that it's supposed to. So salt is the number one food for adrenaline, okay? Number two is sleep, that 5 hours of sleep. So if a person is chronically, let's say, going to bed too late, watching too much TV, all these other things, and not sleeping well enough, or they sleep, but they have to get up every few hours to go pee, and they only sleep 3 hours maximum, and then they get up and go pee, and then they go to bed, back to bed, I fall right back asleep, but you got up, right? And anything more than a couple seconds of I'm sitting up, your adrenals have to start all over again. So you better get another 5 hours. But a lot of people with this I have to pee 2-3 times a night. What happens is you're never getting enough sleep, which then robs your body of building more adrenaline. And then you get into adrenaline deficiency, which makes you dehydrated and makes you have to drink. And there it just becomes this catch-22 loop. And so getting that 5 hours of sleep. So if you're one of these people, and we'll talk about some supplements and things like that, but there's some behaviors that you can do. Number one, stop eating and drinking anything 3 hours before you go to bed. And like that little thing that your parents used to say before you go on a long trip, which is make sure you go pee, right? Yeah, I don't have to go. Go, okay? So make yourself empty your bladder. And a lot of times that will help people. Now, other times people go, oh, geez, there's nothing I can do about it because I got a full bladder, right? Sometimes people have a bladder issue and they get up in the middle of the night and it's just a trickle in it and they're like, ah, man, why did this get me up? Sometimes that's a bladder infection. So treating a bladder infection with garlic, the Allicidin is very helpful in terms of supporting the bladder and the urinary tract and these things, cranberry, these other different types of things. Those are helpful, okay? But there's this one of these other tricks, which is people go, you know, it is a full bladder and I have to get up. Well, if you keep doing that and you don't get that sleep, well, you're just stuck and you need that sleep. And there's a lot of people who do not like this, but you only really have to do this for about 2 weeks and then you'll be over it. A lot of truckers do this, which is if they're on long hauls, they got a pee bottle, right? So a man or a woman, you can get what's called a urinal, which is they have these spill-proof urinals for both male and females. You put it on the bedside table or you put it on the floor next to you and you, without lifting your head off the pillow, because it's really the lifting the head off the pillow where the inner ear senses that you're level with the floor, anything more than about 2 to 3 seconds, it has to start all over again. So you basically use the urinal underneath the covers. It has a spill-proof top and some people go, I don't like that. But you do this for a couple weeks and then suddenly after about a couple weeks, now you don't have to get up. Now you don't have to get up because you've built the adrenaline. So this is where we get into the behaviors, okay? One of the other things that is also related to a lot of adrenal concerns is a toxic liver. And one of the other things that is a deficiency is copper. Copper is one of these things that's super essential now we need iron for your blood to hold oxygen, but you also need copper, and the adrenals need copper. Apricots, dried apricots carry lots of copper, and it's a great way to get copper. One of the other supplements that I highly recommend is called AdrenaVen standard process, and that contains some natural copper in it, and that is so lots of magnesium and stuff like that. AdrenaVen also contains some desiccated adrenal glands. I think it's from cow or something like that, and it actually helps to rebuild that organ. Premier Research Labs makes another adrenal product, which I like an awful lot. Now, anytime the adrenal products from Premier Research Labs, you have to take those, don't take those at nighttime. You take those basically breakfast and lunchtime, but not at dinner time because it can kind of keep you up. So the adrenal products, you tend to, adrenal support, you tend to want to do in the beginning of the day when the adrenaline is functioning. You want the adrenaline to kind of shut down at nighttime because it's time to go to sleep. As I said, a lot of infection is related to this. Now, there's a whole host of which infection? What are you talking about? One of the top infections that people are dealing with is dental infection. Bad teeth. You can have teeth that have problems that you don't feel any pain from. Gingivitis. This is going to be in the gums. You can have bad dental restorations. These different types of things. So, as I say, always get your dental squared away. Get your dental. Now, there's other things that we can do that is really good for that chronic infection, and that would be neem. You can make a neem tea. Neem is, in India, it's known as the toothbrush tea, but it's for everything. There are certain Indian Ayurvedic physicians who treat everything in the body with neem because it is a superior, wonderful anti-infective, but it's also super nutritive. It rebuilds things in the body. I also like, anytime we're talking about the teeth, you're also talking about the sinuses and the gut. So the teeth can be right here, which then leach into the sinuses, chronic sinus infection, chronic ear, nose, and throat type of thing. What's really good for that is the garlic. The Allicidin or the Cardio ND Lots of garlic, because garlic is a basically anti-infective for bacterias, but it's all a whole host of everything, and it literally helps to just keep things growing, keeps the bad things from growing, and it helps to keep the blood flowing and other things like that. Lots of sulfur. So again, this is not drugs. What you're doing is this is deficiencies. So even garlic we have a deficiency in the things that garlic provides. The adrenal complex, as I said, from Premier Research Labs, helps work as an adaptogen type of thing, as an adrenal support. It helps to support those organs and rebuild those organs. The immune complex is another thing, because sometimes one of the chronic things that we're dealing with would be some viruses. And there's lots of viral stuff, and there's not very good antiviral drugs at all. And the thing that I like that's really good for viruses, including, people know about this for, let's say, herpes viruses, is that's lysine. Lysine, which is an amino acid, and you take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. And lysine helps to basically turn off viruses and stop them from growing. Arginine feeds viruses. So there's a whole antiviral diet, which is high lysine, low arginine. Those things I've seen to be very, very helpful for adrenal concerns, because something's triggering your adrenals. And either you're not feeding the adrenals, you're running yourself too ragged, or you're thinking yourself, or you're emotionally feeling too ragged, which is burning that out. Or again, the body is fighting something inside there, like a computer that has a virus that you don't see it, you don't know. It looks like it's acting normal, but it's not. Something's running it all the time. Another thing that is a really stressful thing on the body is very poor digestion. When a person is not digesting foods well enough, that's causing a lot of stress on the body. So the quantum digest, which is all of the digestive enzymes, plus hydrochloric acid, that's what the stomach provides. And this is just aids help you digest your foods better. And when you don't have such difficulty in digestion, you're not going to be sending a signal to your adrenal glands to say, hey, help us here. So if you're not digesting very well, you're kicking the adrenal glands to go, give us more energy. We're really struggling here. And when you have chronic digestion problems every day, this is the thing that's constantly sending a signal to your adrenals. And treating the adrenals, you will find a lot of anxiety conditions, a lot of things that people thought that there was, something wrong with me. There really isn't. What it really is your body is running that fight or flight mechanism all the time. And when we don't have enough nutrients and enough minerals in particular, then it basically is in a panic. Whereas those same type of situations, so let's say a stressful situation, again, person going through divorce, birthing, a new job, these different types of things, that's what has to be. You're going to have to live through it. But if you support yourself nutritionally, then that will help the adrenals from getting burned out, and then you will not have as much anxiety. And you don't have to take any anti-anxiety medications, because really, people taking anti-anxiety medications with the same level of anxiety or the same triggers on top of a nutritional deficiency, it just gets from worse to bad to worse. And it doesn't scratch the itch many times. And wouldn't it be great to, instead of being on these pretty heavy-duty medications, treating these conditions before it becomes a condition by nutritionally supporting yourself? Again, it all comes from a nutritional deficiency. If you're not getting what the body needs, robs Peter to pay Paul, and eventually the system breaks down. And then when the body is breaking down itself, it's going to always send a signal to the adrenals to kind of go, something's wrong here. Anytime something's wrong, anytime something suddenly changes, the adrenals are involved. And if these things are constantly happening, even in your mind, it's going to be sending something to the adrenals. Now, the first stage of that is to support it and then you'll have enough energy to deal with it, to make the changes that need to be. A lot of things that another common thing that we notice from adrenal deficiency is fatigue and weakness and poor stamina, meaning people that think that, for instance, oh, I got a bad heart because I get huffy and puffy going up, and they're just overweight, and you know, I used to be able to go up those flights of stairs. Now I go up 2-3 flights of stairs or 5 steps and I'm huffing and puffing. It doesn't necessarily always have to be cardiovascular. And keep in mind, what started as an adrenal can then turn into cardiovascular. So adrenals are kind of the master, and those are the things that got basically neglected from a long time ago and didn't get fed. So like I said, the minerals are the most important things. When we get into what the standard process is talking about is that, as I said, the minerals of like copper and magnesium, these are the minerals that run the muscle system and run the electromagnetic system. That's what our body is truly electromagnetic. And so like your battery in your car, if you don't have the minerals right, then the whole electromagnetic signaling is not working correctly. And what happens first before the chemical of adrenaline is an electromagnetic thing. So it's the invisible thing that happens first before the visible thing happens, but they're tied together. So your energy. Now, we talk about adrenaline as being like energy, like chemical energy, right? Fire energy. But energy is also energy. Yes, Premier Research Labs. Premier Research Labs adrenaline, adrenal complex. Those are the things that help to support the adrenals. But like I said, one of the things that you really look at it as, what is it really doing? Got a bunch of different herbs and other nutraceuticals and things like that. But what they are is really minerals, because it's an electromagnetic energy that goes through first before it turns into chemical. And then when it's chemical, it turns back into electromagnetic. And then, like I said, energy, as far as we talk about, like, say, chemical energy of the adrenaline being like a drug. You know, adrenaline is actually a drug that they can inject into you. In that movie Pulp Fiction, when, you know, she basically was in a coma from a drug overdose, that's what they did, is they pumped in adrenaline right into her heart, and that brought her back to life. That's straight adrenaline, okay? But energy is also energy, which is the electromagnetic energy, right? The electromagnetic energy is real, and that's where it starts, and that's where it goes back to. And so another thing that has been very, very helpful for people that have adrenal deficiency, adrenal exhaustion, is getting better energy. Number one, that's sleep. Number two, that can be, you know, starting to do meditation type of things, calm yourself down, do your internal work. And number three is literally getting better energy, grounding, going outside. When people are in a panic or when people are having adrenal deficiency, going outside and getting your bare feet on the ground. And that pulls static electricity out of you, because sometimes the excess static electricity in our body that doesn't have anywhere to go causes the adrenaline to constantly, like, something's wrong. And so the adrenaline keeps getting pumped. So if a person's able to go outside and put their bare feet on the ground, the bare feet allows for the transmission of that electromagnetic energy, in terms of it pulls the positive ions out of our body and puts negative ions into our body. If you have an opportunity to go to certain places in the world, let's say California, and you go to, let's say, Laguna Beach or Big Sur, you go to the tide pools, you go first thing in the morning, when the sun shines, or when the sun is rising at sunrise, there's high levels of what's called telluric fields, telluric energy and grounding, and it will literally pull the charges out of your body and put new energy into your body. Going out into the nice woods, these things, even just walking, even if you are wearing your shoes, being in the area where the woods are, especially during, let's say, when it's misty, or when it's raining, or after it's rained, those are where the energies are very, very high, and it pulls the static, the bad energies out of you, and it puts the good energies back into you. And that helps to recover the adrenal glands. Music, singing, these different types of things. Sometimes when people have had, let's say, a lot of adrenal exhaustion, they're carrying a lot of weight on their shoulders, a good cry, a good therapy session, and sometimes just doing a therapy session with yourself and having a good cry. So many people feel better after that because it gets rid of this burden, and it's really the adrenal glands that are holding on, like, I can't think of one of the Greek gods, or Atlas, which is carrying it on, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Eventually the adrenals just putts out. And so getting rid of these mental weights, these psychological, psychic weights, that the only way you can do it is to just let it go. And sometimes when things cannot be sorted out, you just have to let it go and let nature take it away from you, or even just let time take it away from you. And that helps to rebuild the adrenal glands. So these are great ideas. And again, many people suffer from, and there's early stages, which is it starts at this, and then it turns into this, and then it turns into this. And when you finally get to, like, say, an exhaustion of adrenal, it can be a difference between 1 week and the next. And the next week is like when it's completely burned out, you can see a lot of symptomology, or in terms of a person's, like, suddenly they're having all kinds of real bad problems. And I was fine a week ago, and suddenly what happened? Well, when the adrenals just finally run out, the body doesn't. And like I said, the adrenals run every process of the body. Every thought that you have, every heartbeat that you have, every movement of the body, including your heart pumping all the time, is involving adrenaline. Okay? So, till next time, thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. I invite you to press the like button because you liked what I had to say about your health, and also press the subscribe button to be able to easily find me and also be part of this. I look forward to helping you reclaim your health naturally.